Assalamualaikum and selamat sejahtera. Good afternoon, evening, good morning to anyone who is watching. My name is Muhammad Hannan bin Muhammad Zuki and I will be presenting my reflection on the PEC 200 for the September 2024 edition. First of all, this reflection is for communication skills, as PEC 200 stands for that, and it focuses on my ability to convey information, to tell people what I mean, and to improve my linguistic knowledge on how to communicate with others better in a lot of ways. Moving on. There will be 10 questions, and each question is a guideline on how I would answer its rubric for the best marks that I will get for this subject for this semester. I will be moving on to the first question. What were the three main things I learned from this subject? The three main things I learned from this subject is firstly, communication skills. Communication skills, I can divide it by three because I need to divide by three main subjects. First one is lingual aspect, the second one is non-verbal aspect, and the third one is the content of my subject, the content of my talks, my conversations, what I try to say. So those three, verbal, non-verbal, and then the content of my talks, of my conversations. That means it's English, Malay, any language that is used for the communication. So those are the three main things that I learned from this subject. Examples for the three are, for verbal communication, it's more to tone, pitch, and my pace of my speech. For example, again, for the tone, it's high or low. For the pitch, it's mostly like that, but more to the sway of words, like how I end my talks in a high pitch or a low tone, something like that. And then there is the pace. The pace is how fast I talk. How fast I talk, like very fast or very slow. It conveys different meaning. For the pitch, I think it's more to volume because if I talk louder, it means something else if I cannot control my tone. If I talk slower, it will mean something else if you cannot hear it. So those are the three examples of the main things that I learned from this subject. Moving on. What was new or surprising to me for this subject was the people in the class, or maybe my new perspective on how to see people. Hmm. For example, if someone was talking to me and they fill their words with ahs, and other filler words. For example, if I was talking to someone and they say to me, mm, I was something like that. My new perspective on them is their communication skill are low, but they can improve on it, and it's surprising to me that this is something that we actually have to learn, have to practice, because to me, talking is like something basic, very basic for any language, even not just English, but even in Malay, my mother tongue. I think it's something that needs to be practiced because not everyone can go on stage and talk, simply talk. So that's surprising to me, I think. Moving on. What have I changed my mind about as a result of this session? My mind, I was really open-minded about this, so there's not really that much things that could change as a result of this subject. But I think something that really did change for me is that I have to be gentler to people who are less proficient in speaking skills, because yeah, for example, before I thought this was a basic skill, but afterwards I think Yeah, people need to practice this more, so my judgment of them is gentler. I view them as, yeah, he needs more practice or he can improve on this, on that. So I try to help in subtle ways, like suggesting this and that, and suggesting that, hey, maybe we should do this way in a few other subjects or in a few other projects. Based on this session, what are the areas which I need to develop further? The most important key aspect that I think I need to develop further is my accent, because a lot of people, maybe if they hear a very clear accent or a very clear pronunciation, thus they can understand it easier, because a few words like read, read, and read, it means a lot of things. Saw, and saw, it means a lot of things. So I think I need to work more on my pronunciation, on my sentence structure also, because people, if they cannot understand what you're trying to convey, maybe they cannot understand what you're trying to say. For example, if I say I saw a saw being saw yesterday, or maybe a few tongue twisters like she sells seashells by the seashore. If people cannot understand what I'm trying to say, my pronunciation, maybe they cannot even understand what a seashell is, or see a seasheller, or she sells what is, because they cannot understand what I'm trying to say. So that is the area which I need to develop further. I am still unsure about some issues. What are they? So a few insecurities, and what they are is, for me, more towards soft communication skills, like my timing or the content of what I'm trying to ask, because I have a tendency to ask a lot of questions for things that I don't understand, and a lot of people find that annoying, because they tend to think that I am smart enough to grasp things as fast as that. And I do have a bit of problem, because my mind works in a bit of a different way, because I tend to read a lot of books, and my mind moves more towards the bigger picture rather than the smaller details. So when I think on the question, I firstly see the bigger picture, but then when I think further, I will need to think on the details. That's why I ask a lot of questions. So I'm still unsure about that, because do I have to ask? Why are you annoyed that I try to ask questions? Things like that. So I think that's my problem. What is the one thing which I most liked about this subject? So the one thing I like most about this subject is the memories that I made along the way. A very cliche answer, but I think that's very important, because time is something that we cannot take back. Thus, what we do with it is the most important thing. Is it worth it? Is it memorable? Does it mean something? Is it useful? So time, the time I spent on this subject with my friends, with the lecturer, time doing things, learning, improving myself. So that is one thing I enjoy most about this subject, is the time I spent on it. What is the one thing that I most disliked about this subject? Well, something that I dislike about this subject is more towards the details, because of my, I'm not trying to brag or something, but my level of communication, because of how often I have to go on stage, or how often I have to perform. So I think I'm on a very basic or intermediate level of public speaking or speaking in general. Thus, I try to want more details on how to improve, and the practice that comes along with it, rather than the basic things that I think most people can find online on how to improve, if they want to improve. So that's one of the things that I dislike, that the details are scarce, and I have to very intuitively grasp it from the open books. what are some of the miscellaneous interesting facts that I learned in this session? Mm. Firstly, some of the miscellaneous interesting facts that I learned from this session is the names of my classmates, what they enjoy, because these things are random, and if I never join the class with them, maybe I will never know. Like relationship statuses or maybe Instagram handles. Those things are interesting to me because I never really knew them before. And after I learned this session, I think it's interesting because it's useful to me to communicate with them through other ways rather than just seeing them in college and talking with them without knowing how to communicate with them further, without asking for their number or directly asking them, hey, what's your number? Can we talk after this? It's not like I'm asking them for a date or something. So it's interesting to know how to reach out to others from this class. What are the three issues that interested me a lot and that I would like to ask my lecturer for a more detailed explanation? So the three issues that interested me a lot, firstly, is timing. The second is the content of my question, and the third are how to improve myself for speaking. Because firstly, for the first question is timing. I find that when someone is talking and I have something to say, most of the time I really have to wait a few minutes and then I lose my train of thought. Thus, one of the things that I want to ask the lecturer about is how do I interrupt someone without just raising my hand? I want to speak, but they never let me speak. So that's number one. Number two is the content. The content of my question is because of a personal thing. And I think, for example, if someone has a misunderstanding about something, for example, me or anyone else, then I try to rectify it, but I try to rectify it directly, and I cannot seem to find a way to clearly express what I'm trying to say. For example, if the rules of the something says this, and the other one understands that as this, and I understand it as something else. Thus, I tried to rectify that, but it got lost in translation, I think. Thus, it diverges our trains of thought into so far of a train of understanding. It makes me quite frustrated, and I would like to ask my lecturer on how to improve that further to avoid that situation in the future. So for the third thing is how to improve myself without resorting to like tongue twisters or maybe resorting to just watching a YouTube video on how to speak. Like for example, the tone, the pitch, the pace. How does the lecturer practice speaking in front of a lot of students and catching their attention? How to hold it? How to control the atmosphere? Something like that. So it's very interesting to me that I would like to lecturer to answer that question. Moving on. I am still afraid of some issues. What are they? So one of the issues that I'm afraid of, the first one is, do people understand what I'm trying to say? Because if I'm talking, it usually has a few meanings behind it, innuendos, deeper things, details that I try to convey to them non-verbally. For example, sarcasm sometimes or a joke that people do not seem to get. So those are some of the issues that I'm afraid of. And the second one, another issue that I'm afraid of is if people enjoy the way I'm speaking, because someone told me that the way I speak is very formal, and in my mind I think it's just normal. I try to convey communication as clear, as concise as possible, but I think they want me to be more casual, and the way I am casual is very not vulgar, but it's very uncomfortable for me because I'm very used to being this way. Thus, it's an issue for myself to try and improve. I think that's all. Thank you for watching this reflection. I hope those who are watching can leave a comment or anything, like the video in YouTube. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section because I'm open to answer anything. Thank you. Goodbye.